George, I do just want to say, before we get to our boy Keegs, I mean, how can you support a coaching staff a year after they make their debut? You don't think with all these first-time coaches you should maybe put a support staff around them?
Dude, everyone saw this. Everyone saw this. God bless her soul. My dead grandmother saw this coming. Robert Kraft just wanted to not actually see through the forest, man. What is that saying? You can't see the leaves through the forest?
Yes.
I don't know what it I don't even know what that really means. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm here, by the way.
Great
nice
hat.
to see you guys.
Great hat, Keagan.
Thank you. I'm enjoying listening to the band.
He's the referee. Keegs is the ref.
Look, yes, everyone could have seen this coming. Let's get to draft talk. Everyone could have seen it coming.
Yeah.
You just better learn a lesson and evaluate yourself after year one.
You know what's awesome about this conversation? We get to have it for the next 6 months. Isn't that fun?
Keegs, if they lose out, I don't think we are. I'm telling you. I know I'm on an island. I don't care. If they lose out, Keegs, which is totally feasible, I think everybody's gone. That's just me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's easy to think that they lose out, but I don't think anybody saw them beating Cincinnati at the beginning of the year.
Facts.
I don't think anybody saw them kind of beating the crap out of the Jets to the point they did, obviously, for what's happened. Stuff changes, things happen. I think this conversation is going to go through a lot of different, ups and downs throughout the next 7 weeks for sure.
Sure.
A lot more downs. It feels like. All right, let's talk draft talk. So I know you guys are like, wait, you guys already talked offensive linemen. It was a first-round draft talk. It was offensive line heavy, but it was first-round draft talk. We're going to talk offensive linemen because clearly DeMontre Jacobs and Vidarian Lowe, surprise, aren't the answer. Clearly, Ben Brown, surprise, is not the answer.
Yep.
And the same thing goes for Michael Jordan.
Yep.
I'll hold out for Leighton Robinson.
Yep.
Let me cut you off real quick, George. You guys ready for some breaking news as we record?
Yes.
As it comes out, people are gonna know this. Offensive line breaking news. The Patriots just released Michael Jordan, who started 11 of 12 games. They claimed Lester Cotton off waivers. He was with Miami. They cut their starting left guard outright. So that's the state of the offensive line. You wonder why we're already talking offensive line again?
Sure.
That's why. There.
Yeah, and Keegs, here's how inconsequential that is, right? Is like go to Market Basket, find a fat athletic-looking dude, and ask him to start, on Sunday against the Colts.
I mean, that sounds like Cole Strange is ready.
That's where I'd go with that.
You still have Ben Brown at center. He played 87%. Do you guys get it? Travis,
right. I know.
Listen.
I know.
This is why offensive line talk is important.
I know.
Would you buy a house with a bad foundation? If I knew from looking at it for 5 seconds, that doesn't look right. Would you buy it?
No.
You wouldn't buy that with an offensive line. I'm sorry to yell at you, Travis. I'm sorry.
No, it's true.
I'm projecting my stresses. Oh, my God. They just cut Michael Jordan. Keagan, great breaking news, man.
Thank you. And the thing with that move, too, is he is not your worst offensive lineman. Not by a long shot.
No, he's not.
DeMontre Jacobs.
DeMontre Jacobs, I would say, is worse. But it's just a matter of his position and who's coming back. Cole Strange is probably slide right into left guard. The whole moving Cole Strange to center thing. And at some point, guys, we will talk about the draft. I know this is all right. What do we get into the draft talk? But at some point, I think they will try to get Cole Strange in and play him at center a little bit. But coming with a guy who had a patellar tendon injury and his knee exploded at the end of last year, and you're just going to have to be the center. Probably not the smartest idea. So maybe the coaching staff's doing something smart this time around. If we want to give them credit, this might be a place to do it.
Michael Jordan, I remember watching back on the Tennessee game because Drake May pointed out 2 particular plays, and then we'll talk draft, I promise. But he was like, I could have been better on these plays. And watching back, I was like, right, Drake May's off on the throw. Watching Michael Jordan at left guard, though, I know the infamous, chuck it to Ramondre Stevenson. Everyone was laughing that Michael Jordan did nothing. Yep. Hey, guys, that happened all game long. So I'm not shocked he's cut, but oh my God, you just cut your starting left guard. So with that, let's talk offensive lineman. Keagan, you always bring some guys right to the table. Who are you looking at as viable options in the draft the Patriots and Patriots fans should have their eyes on when it comes time to draft?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to get into the weeds a little bit with you guys because we've done some baseline Kelvin Banks, Will Campbell. We've talked to those 2 guys, and I think we'll continue to talk about them as the process goes along because once we figure out where they'll be drafting, it'll paint the picture a little bit better for us in terms of are these two guys that they're actually going to be focusing on? Maybe if they're way up high in the draft, they're going to hit another position and try to hit tackle later. So coming into this, I had two thoughts in my head. Avoid the top flight guys because we're going to talk about them later. Yeah. Get into the weeds a little bit and talk about versatility. And I think the Michael Jordan thing plays perfectly into this where Elliot Wolf and the tree that he comes from in terms of scouting and drafting players, versatility might be the number one thing that they look for, especially an offensive lineman. They don't want like a Vidarian Lowe, Vidarian Lowe is a left tackle. I don't think he can play any other position on the field. It's what he does. He doesn't do it all that well, but if you're going to put him anywhere on the offensive line, it kind of has to be left tackle. They're shoestrung there with him. Or shoehorn it. They have to put him in there. In this draft, I think they need to focus on versatility. Guys that can play multiple positions. So do you want one? Do you want two? You want to kind of cycle through? What are you looking for here, George?
Give me your one.
Number one, Jonah Savaiinaea. Don't know if I said that right, but offensive lineman out of Arizona.
Jonah Savaiinaea out of Arizona, yeah.
Thank you, George. Thank you. He is the kind of guy who, his profile, you look at him, that's an NFL guard, right? But what has he done throughout his college career? He's played tackle, and he's done it pretty damn well for an offense who has produced, right? We talked about Ted McMillan a few weeks ago. Arizona's the last problem they have on their team is offense. They produce, they score points. The defense is a different story. This is a guy who was started for multiple years on the left side. He moved over to the right side at one point, but size of a guard, but has the versatility to play tackle. He can slide in, maybe play all four positions outside of center. So this is just a guy baseline that I wanted to give you guys because he is a fringe first-round pick. But he represents the rest of the guys that I want to talk about today. Just because with this offensive line, it's more than one spot you're looking to fill. It's not just left tackle. So versatility is the name of the game here.
Fringe first-round picks, not the worst thing. Look. Receiver, tackle, the priority in the draft.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially tackle. Look, if they sign T. Higgins in free agency, your entire board changes. Yeah. But to your point even, Keagan, and again, if this is the Patriots are in a top 3 position, what they would love to be is at 2. 1 or 2. One won't happen, I don't think. But the reason being is that then there will be a bidding war. There's Shedeur Sanders and there's Cam Ward. And that's it. It's a very weak quarterback draft. It's also a very weak offensive tackle draft. Let's all be honest.
Right.
Will Campbell's seen as a left guard. Kelvin Banks, possibly just undersized. Yeah. Then you have Arante Ursary, who we'll get into. Really raw. Big, but raw. And then you get into guys like this. I'm just saying that if they sign a T. Higgins, then that changes what they can do at the top of the first. And if you get a versatile guy like that, a Jonah Savaiinaea. See, I can't even say it right. And you rebuild this offensive line that way because free agency is not the best. It's good at guard. I like the idea of versatility. Yeah. If you can just play multiple spots because obviously they need it because there are so many question marks all over that 5 guys up front.
Yeah, and no team in the NFL is going to have like a starting 5 that stays healthy all year and they play together. You need guys that can bounce around a little bit, especially young guys. They drafted Layden Robinson this year. And that was kind of his thing. He can play on both sides. He's a guard. He's probably never going to play tackle, but he can play left or right. You can move him around. I think he's an option to replace Michael Jordan, who we talked about off the top, where maybe they'll just slide him in there and they do want to put Cole Strange at center. The versatility aspect is something that you kind of just overlook because you see a guy play left tackle in college. And obviously, if he's going to get drafted, he was superb at it. We're going to talk about guys like Ursary and Kelvin Banks and stuff like that. They're superb, stupendous, tremendous, whatever, at left tackle in college. It's probably not going to work out that way in the NFL. Like, these blue-chip guys are so few and far between. The Trent Williams of the world, they're not coming around every year. So what you want to do is maximize the asset and take a guy who, God forbid he doesn't work out at tackle, we can slide him into guard, and then that spot is taken care of. You know what I mean? So that's why I want to talk about guys like these, because I think they're so much more valuable than a straight-up, he plays left tackle, and if he doesn't work, he's out of the league.
Yep. Well, listen, I don't even think there's a Joe Alt in this draft.
No, there's not. Or Rashawn Slater. No.
Which lends me to my question, because in segments like this, I ask you 2 questions, because you both know I have 0 interest in breaking down offensive linemen. Thanks. However, I know you 2 do, and I respect that. So I'm asking this. If we're talking maybe the quality high end isn't really there in this draft, has this season not taught us the importance of depth? Yep. I mean, is this a situation, answer me this, how many offensive linemen, because I hear you, Keegs, with the versatility, how many offensive linemen are we looking at totality draft class? Because clearly you need depth, and if there's not that high end, generational Trent Williams, whatever, then are we talking about drafting a multitude of guys who can play both tackle and guard potentially for the Patriots in the draft class totality?
Just real quick, I'll give you a little stat, and I think it's going to answer your question for you.
Okay.
Patriots have rostered 19 offensive linemen this year.
Okay.
That's ridiculous. That's an insane number. You would think, injuries is probably the reason for it. No, they've just brought guys on and off the roster, and it hasn't worked, and they've cut loose. I think this year for them, and it's kind of tough with a rookie quarterback, but this year for them has been like, all right, open tryouts, guys. Right. Come in, you play a little offensive line, and if you stick, you move on to the next round of the process, which is next year, training camp. See if you can stick again. That's what they've been doing, and I think they have 5 offensive linemen on the practice squad. They've got 11 on the active roster, something like that. It's an insane amount of guys. So I do think that's what they're doing. I think that's what they value, and the Packers did that for a long time, right? They didn't really target those guys super, super early. It was mostly defense in the first couple of rounds. Middle rounds, they were like, all right, we're going to get these versatile. They played tackle in college. They might play guard in the NFL. The Zach Toms of the world.
Jordan Morgans.
Yep.
Jordan Morgans, he was another guy from Arizona. He's probably a guard, and then they bring him in. It's like, oh, he's pretty good. So he's stuck. So it's a dartboard thing. I think they're just throwing darts at the board, and that's the guys that I would look at because they're just bottom line, the top end of this draft at offensive line is not good.
Yes.
Okay.
We talk about Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks like they're the blue chips just because they're the best of the worst. They're good. They might be really good in the NFL. The floor is just so low. Yeah. So I don't want to mess with those guys really at all. I don't want to waste a first round pick if I'm the Patriots and draft a guy who's going to end up being a mediocre guard in the NFL. They've gone down that road before. So
look, it's this offensive line is putrid. At least they're aware of the guys in the room. It's just that shocking you'd cut a Michael Jordan is so important, but again, they just have nothing good moving forward. And what you want, if the Patriots are picking top 3, when you take a tackle top 3, that guy needs to be like an Orlando Pace.
Right.
It's just an absolute 12-year starter, cornerstone guy, just like you said, beyond blue chip, just like cornerstone of the franchise player. And that guy isn't in this draft. Last draft with Olu Fashanu and Joel, it was there. This draft, it's not. Who else do you got, Keegan?
Another guy who kind of just fits in this, Jonah Monheim, another Jonah out of USC. He's a fun kind of guy to watch. He played all 5 positions at USC. This is his 5th year, so he's an older guy.
Jeez.
But he's playing center right now. He was their left tackle when Caleb Williams was there. What kind of, you're talking versatility. How many guys can play center and left tackle in back-to-back seasons and still be one of the best offensive linemen in college football? He gave up 0 sacks last year. He hasn't given up a sack this season, and he's only given up 2 quarterback pressures. So this is a guy who has versatility, and he's also just good. I think what his problem is going to be is just the measurements. Like, his arms are short. He's probably going to run a bad 3 cone, and everybody's going to be like, well, he can't get out in space. We want to run that outside zone. He's not going to be able to do it. He's a good offensive lineman. Like, why... This is one of the things that kills me with these evaluations where you take a guy and you're like, he has a great 3 cone, so he can get out in space. Yeah, but when he gets out in space and a linebacker knocks him in the mouth and he falls on his ass and then the linebacker goes and makes a tackle, who cares if he can get out in space? John Monheim's going to at least get in front of people. So he's a guy where when I watch him, I'm like, I like that guy. I think he's a pretty good offensive lineman. And at this point, the Patriots will take a pretty good offensive lineman.
Because they don't got any. Hey, if you can play, and when you have 2 third-round picks, that gives you a lot of flexibility. Where there will be that, an offensive lineman again in the 3rd. Don't forget, they have the 2nd pick. That trade with the Falcons, which has aged so well. One of the 2 things that Elliot Wolf did right this offseason. Draft Drake May, don't trade back. Traded Matt Judon, got a 3rd-round pick. As Judon and the Falcons' pass rush has been non-existent. So that's a good pull with the Jonah Monheim. Like, we talk about the Kelvin Banks, and like, You mentioned it. I mean, for Monheim not to allow a sack yet, and keep in mind, he allowed sacks last season, but Caleb Williams runs everywhere. You lose track of him. So eventually, you're going to get beat because there is no pocket integrity, and your quarterback can sell you out. Not on purpose. He's a playmaker. It's going to happen. Drake May has that type of capability, but he's been really good in the pocket. Kelvin Banks has only allowed 6 pressures and 1 sack this season. He's now up to 38 starts, and he's very quick out of his stance, which makes up for his smaller stature because that gives him better depth when it comes to pass blocking. Super athletic, great feet, really good hands, stronger run blocker than a pass blocker. And let's face it, the Patriots don't have good run blocking either. So that's where a Kelvin Banks draft pick can make sense. And look, if he's pretty good at left tackle, and he can get by and maybe eventually becomes a left guard, not the worst thing. I think that compared to a guy like LSU's Will Campbell, that's a left guard. At least Kelvin Banks has the length when it comes to his arms. Now, longer armed pass rushers will give him trouble. When they get on either shoulder, that's when he struggles. But he is such a strong base or really good anchor. The guys that try to overpower him, bull rushers, he holds his own. So there are the perks, and you see better things with Kelvin Banks than you would see when it comes to a Will Campbell and all of that.
Yeah, he's one of the guys where you can see it working out really well, right? You can see him coming in and being a franchise left tackle, but then you can also see him really struggling with the size disparity that he has with some of these guys at the NFL, like a Calais Campbell playing 5-tech and just being like, "Go block Calais Campbell." He's gonna be like, "What? What do you want me to do?" So that's the scary part of it, and it's always, for me, it's always going to go back to the versatility thing. For him, I don't know if he has the versatility because for him, all of his, pros, if you're looking at it from a scouting report standpoint, all the pros are like, he's quick, he's got quick feet, he's fast, he gets back in his stance real quick. You're going to waste that guy at guard? You know what I mean? And guard, he's definitely too small to play guard. He's not heavy enough at all. So that's another one where you're kind of shoehorning him in to tackle, and you're like, all right, you're going to go replace Vidarian Lowe. And he could just end up being another Vidarian Lowe. And then you're wasting a first-round pick on a guy who you can clearly see that you don't want to play left tackle in the future. So it's I think that's a gamble. I really do. I think Kelvin Banks is a gamble. I think Will Campbell, like we talked about last time, where you bring him in, and it's, at the very least, we're going to have a decent offensive lineman. Is he going to play guard or tackle? We don't know. But at the very least, I can trust that he's going to be good at the next level. I don't know if I can do that with Banks.
Okay.
What at worst, though, I think, though, real quick, is that a Kelvin Banks is a Peter Skoronski. Like, it literally same frame. Skoronski, a career tackle at Northwestern. Now he's been a left guard at Tennessee. So I wouldn't rule out that ability. And when you do watch Kelvin Banks' film, what I do like about him, he's a really good pulling tackle. Like, he will get over to the right side of the offensive line on run games. And that helps, obviously, with play action, resetting the pocket, motions at the snap when you have an athletic quarterback like Drake May. I get what you're saying of, like, I don't know, at his size, you get in, you build him up, and that's coaching. I would have completely ruled out guard. And I get what you're saying, Keagan. I don't love the Vidarian Lowe comp, because let's remember what Vidarian Lowe was coming out of college. And Kelvin Banks is still tackle 1 in this draft for a reason. Weak tackle draft, but still tackle 1. T, you go ahead.
I mean, listen, I've heard you guys break these guys down, and it seems like the consensus is Will Campbell. So I want to ask a question in a different way. If the Patriots are going to go first round on one of these guys, and it is Will Campbell, where is that spot in the first round for you? Where's that sweet spot where both of you would say, you know what? They got him at number blank. I'm okay with it. It's not an overreach. Let's see what he can do. Mm-hmm. They don't take him at number 1 or number 2.
No.
But where would you feel comfortable if the Patriots select Will Campbell in that first round? What's the right number for the both of you?
Keagan, you go.
Yeah, a lot of aspects to that. The thing that jumped out was 6. If they end up at 6, which is where they were entering last week before they lost to the Dolphins, they were sitting at 6. And because I see 6 and I see, all right, one dumb team is going to trade up for a quarterback.
Yeah.
So maybe not dumb. Maybe it's a smart move to move up there and go get a franchise quarterback. But it could also be a dumb team who goes and gets Carson Beck or something like that. So a team moves up and gets a quarterback. Travis Hunter's going to be off the board because he's the best player in the draft. Ted McMillan's probably going to be off the board because he's the best wide receiver in the draft. And that position has boomed recently, right? In the last 5 years, the value of a wide receiver has gone up tremendously. Mm-hmm. So if those 3 guys are off the board, plus probably another quarterback, and then you end up getting Will Campbell because you couldn't get any of those guys or any of the two non-quarterbacks, I'm fine with it, right? You're at least going out and getting a good offensive lineman. And I'm sure George feels that way about Banks. I know he likes Banks a lot. I think, you say consensus. I think we both agree Campbell's going to be good.
Yeah.
I think George likes Banks a lot more than I do.
Banks more, George?
I like Banks more. I just all around do because I think because of the length of his arms, he just projects as a better tackle. We understand he's undersized, but I just like Kelvin Banks. And in a more balanced offense, I mean, Will Campbell's getting a ton of pass blocking snaps, and he's been fantastic for LSU this season. But like athletic pass rushers, he's seen them at Alabama, every one of them. Okay. That's when he has his worst games. And I'm not going to say Kelvin Banks has been fantastic. He has been a disappointment this season compared to what his potential is. And that's me projecting a little on where I think Elliott Wolf would go because you remember earlier in the year, Keegan, Elliott Wolf is like, well, I love Vidarian Lowe's long arms. If he can learn how to use them, he could be a good tackle. It's like, he's just not. So to answer, I see Kelvin Banks picks 5 through 8.
Okay.
Will Campbell 10 through 15.
Oh, wow. That's surprising.
But that's where I see them going.
Yeah.
So, and to Keegan's point of, you can, like, if they have a top 3 pick, Giants, Raiders, Panthers, Titans, Browns need quarterbacks. The Saints need quarterbacks. Don't rule out a team. And play the leverage. If they get a top 3 pick, I don't want them sticking and taking a tackle. I want you trading back, getting more picks, and then taking a tackle. Don't overrule how overzealous some of these GMs got. We saw the demand to go up for 3 by Joe Shane of the Giants to want to get Drake May. Same thing will happen in multiple spots. Yeah. So that's where I go in, where I can see Banks or Will Campbell in that range, and that's where the guys go. Keegan, before we let you go, I want to bring up one more guy.
Yep.
Ariante Ursary out of Minnesota. This is the frame of a left tackle in the NFL. 6'6", 330 pounds. Ariante Ursary with Minnesota. Look, 5th year of college, has played in 38 games, allowed 1 sack, 13 pressures so far this season. Prototypical frame, but in a run-heavy offense, physical Big Ten football, I don't know how this translates for the Patriots. And I'll keep it simple. He's still raw, even though he's a 5th-year guy. Didn't start playing football until he's a junior in high school. You watch his feet. You watch his hands. They can be sloppy. They can be slow. It's good if Scott Peters is back to learn his striking system, which I know is polarizing around
speaking
football.
My language right now, George.
What's that?
You're speaking my language. I love everything you're saying. I'm sorry I cut you off. Keep going.
Yeah, you're good. And like, that's important. Scott Peters had a long career as an NFL offensive lineman, then had a career in MIAA and learned striking. And you keep it within your frame, and it's quick hands, and that's how you win. Like, that's important for Ariante Ursary. But this guy's developmental, and he's best in a play-action heavy offense. The Patriots don't do a lot of play action. If you attach developmental next to their offensive lineman name, I don't want them in the first round. Now, if Ariante Ursary falls to you, if a Josh Simmons out of Ohio State falls to you, Josh Simmons might not be back to football until August, then it makes sense. Ariante Ursary would probably be the 3rd tackle in the first round because of Simmons' injury, but he's developmental, and remember that.
I'm so glad you brought him up because this was kind of the last point I wanted to make. This is where I'm at with the offensive line. Are you guys ready for where I'm at with the offensive line?
Sure, man. Can't wait.
Put a bow on it.
First round, you're not allowed to take one. You're not allowed to take an offensive lineman in the first round. I won't let it happen. I'm done with the conversation about Campbell and Banks. I don't believe either one of them are going to be a franchise left tackle. I don't want to see anybody take them in the first round because I agree with you. 10-15 is probably the range where he should go. I think it would be a little higher. I would accept it. I would be okay with it. But deep down, deep inside, where I really want them to go, 2nd round. That's your offensive tackle because there are 3 names that I think you can take in the 2nd round and you can trust at the very least they will be a left tackle for you at some point in the future. Will it take a year? Maybe. But I think these guys can do it. And it's Ursary, it's Simmons, and it's Wyatt Millum, who's the only name that we haven't brought up yet. Wyatt Millum is a guy out of West Virginia. You want to talk about a dude who just does the job for 5 seasons now at West Virginia. He hasn't given up a quarterback pressure this year, folks.
Nuts.
He won't even let anybody get near his guy. He said, that's my boy back there. You're going to have to go through me to get him. And are you going to go through me? Hell no. I love Wyatt Millum. I love Ursary. That's my boy, Ursary. I think me and him would be famous friends. He seems like a tremendous fella. And Simmons was a first-round offensive lineman before he got hurt. Like, this is a guy that I would have taken in the first round because he's so athletic. And if you watch college football, you've seen what happened to Ohio State after he got hurt.
Yep.
They had to move their left guard to left tackle, their center to left guard. Then they had a new center. The old center got hurt. They had to move their left guard back to center and then a new left guard. It ruined the entire offensive line because this guy was the anchor. He held it down. So those are the three names: Ursary, Millam, Simmons. You take any one of those guys in the second round, I'm doing cartwheels and backflips. I love all three of them. Those are the names for me. I know George probably agrees with all those, and Travis doesn't care.
Don't give a damn. I do like your cartwheels and backflips, though.
I got into this.
I'll do what do they call that? A round off? You do the cartwheel and the flip? Get me in a gymnastics class, and I'll do it on camera if they draft one of those.
I wanted to check Twitter to see if there were any new reports on Josh Simmons and his timeline, so I just typed in literally Josh Simmons, Ohio State. I loved my algorithm. Shams tweet from March 7th about Ben Simmons dealing with an injury popped up.
That's funny.
And I was like, go on, Cook. The few times the algorithm actually pays off. He's Keagan Steifel. Keegs, always appreciate you stopping by, talking draft, talking offensive lineman. Trav, you hear this? It's done. It's over.
Thank God.
Over. Until like April.
Yes.
We're going to talk about.
Exactly. We'll ramp it up. Keegs, have a go on, man. Appreciate you hopping on.